Hello and welcome to the Energy Connect studio at Gastech 2024 in Houston. I'm delighted to have in the studio sitting next to me, Joe McMonigle, the Secretary General of the International Energy Forum. Joe, it's such a pleasure to have you with us in the studio here, especially after your brilliant moderation on the opening gala.
Oh, thank you so much. It's great to be back at Gastech and, of course, with Energy Connects as well.
Yeah, and just talking a little bit about that brilliant night with President Bush and Secretary Gates.
Yeah, it was such an honor to moderate that discussion. And I, of course, worked for President Bush when he was during the first term of his administration. I was the Chief of Staff at the Department of Energy. So it was extra special for me. I hadn't seen the president in a long time. I think the last Bush-Cheney alumni reception in Washington a couple of years ago. So it was great to see him again, and he was in good form and had some really insightful comments, I thought, about world affairs.
Absolutely. And here at Gastech, one of the recurring themes is the role of natural gas and LNG in the current energy mix. What are your thoughts?
Well, you know, I think it was like 10 years ago, the IEA came out with this report, The Golden Age of Gas, and basically predicted that natural gas would grow by 25% of the energy mix. And, you know, in this case, the IEA was spot on, and natural gas is really about 20% now of the energy mix globally, and I think it's on track to grow even more. It's proven itself, I think, as a low carbon energy source in a world searching for low carbon solutions. And it also is a great complement to wind and solar, which are intermittent. And of course, it's a feedstock for so many other resources. But I think going forward, natural gas is going to continue to play a really pivotal role because you know, sometimes it's talked about as a bridge to the transition, but it actually is a transition solution in and of itself. I mean, if we think about the possibilities of coal to gas switching and the enormous reductions in CO2 and other pollutants that we could reduce as a result of that. In the US alone, switching from coal to natural gas has really put us on track to meet our climate goals here in the US. But of course, we need to do this more globally. So I see a lot more room for growth for natural gas. And also there are other platforms, like for example, in shipping and maybe even in you know, road transport. In China, they're successfully you know, creating LNG trucking, and it's displacing a lot of diesel and oil that was used for that. So I think it has a lot more room to grow, and it's really important that at events like this we talk about not just the future demand, but how we can continue to utilize the resource, but more cleanly, and that involves a lot of other technologies at play. So I'm really, I don't have a lot of time in between meetings, but I love to go through the convention floor and see a lot of the new technologies, because for me it's very exciting.
Absolutely, and that's an excellent point about natural gas not just being a bridge, but a solution by itself. And especially with so many conversations taking place around the energy transition, why do you think it's so critical to have a focus on upstream investment?
Well, I like to say that we really need to manage the transition. I think like 3 or 4 years ago, it was a one-way conversation about the transition that basically had to be done at all costs. So really no regard to affordability or to really the practical and realistic goals that were being set, or how realistic the goals that were being set were. And so I argue very strongly at events like this, and when I meet with ministers and policymakers, that we have to be very careful and manage the transition. Because the one thing I'm very concerned about is basically high prices and volatility as a result of underinvestment in upstream oil and gas. That if the public starts to connect those things with the transition or climate policies, we're in big trouble because we'll never get the public back on board on such an existential issue. So therefore, while we pursue the transition and all these new technologies, we have to keep investing in oil and gas because it's going to be with us, whether we like it or not, through 2050. And natural gas, I think, even has more legs, and as I said before, greater growth along the path to 2050. So I just think it's really important that, the IEA has another report that I like to reference a lot, and it's the technology report that they do like every 2 years. And it was updated recently, and essentially it's a great summary on where we are in the transition, because the report says wind and solar and hydro and traditional nuclear get us about halfway to meeting our climate goals. The other half have to come from new technologies that are not commercialized yet or even envisioned yet. And of course we have to put hydrogen and CCS in there. Fusion, I think, is a growing technology, but of course it needs to be further commercialized and proven. But we're making great strides there. But the point is, until that other half, those technologies are ready, we have to keep investing in oil and gas. If we don't, high prices and volatility will be the new normal, and that will undermine public support and progress on climate and the transition.
Is there any particular technology that you would bet on for the next decade or so?
Well, I don't think we really are in a luxury position to be choosing technologies. I think just like energy sources, we need all of the above. The technologies, we need all of the above. We need to see what will really work. And I'm a little concerned because some governments around the world tend to play favorites on the technologies. I think certainly hydrogen has a lot of momentum behind it, and the EU in particular has put a lot of money behind it and has given it a lot of momentum. But something like CCS is also a much needed technology that we need, but it doesn't have as much investment behind it. And we have to go from small amounts of CO2 that are captured now to billions of tons. So we need a lot more work done there, and it requires investment. And so we need policymakers to focus on Article 6 at the next COP meeting so that we create some investment for technologies like CCS. But I'm really excited about small modular reactors. I think it has a great potential. I noticed here in the U.S. in AI and the data center, supercomputing sectors, they're all looking at small modular reactors just for the data center consumption. So I think that's going to help. Fusion is really exciting as well, I think, and there's a lot of private capital now chasing fusion. So I think we have a lot of possibilities out there. We just need to invest more in clean tech and R&D. That's going to be the real secret to meeting our climate goals.
That's going to be a very interesting decade ahead in terms of technology.
Absolutely.
So Joe, what are your thoughts on Gastech as the world's leading forum for low-carbon solutions, as well as the largest gathering of its kind for the natural gas and LNG industry?
Well, it's my third Gastech as Secretary General, and I really enjoy it because, first of all, you have a lot of senior level company officials that come, but you also have the top research, the R&D folks from the companies. And it's great to hear about progress we're making on technologies and new technologies that are out there. Also, the ministers like to come. It's a great, of course it has a lot of commercial appeal. There's a lot of commercial discussions going on the convention floor, but from a policy perspective, I think it's important for the ministers to meet with companies and hear firsthand what's going on. And of course we have very engaging discussions, very frank because it's Chatham House rule discussion. So I think there's a greater dialogue going on behind the scenes here. Of course, during the plenary sessions, you're hearing it publicly, but even behind the scenes, there's a lot of really good discussions that go on. And so that's one of the reasons why I come to Gastech, but I think it also is an attraction for everybody else as well.
Absolutely. Joe, it's such a pleasure to talk to you, and thank you so much for being in the studio here.
It's so great to see you again.
Thank you. And you can get more comprehensive coverage of the energy industry as well as more studio interviews at energyconnect.com. I'll be back with more studio interviews from Gastech 2024 in Houston. Stay tuned for more.